The new jobs report came out today, and another 200 and some thousand new jobs, we lose track, right, were created last month, and unemployment ticked down a point to its lowest point in 16 years. The car manufacturer Toyota announced a $1.6 billion investment in the United States in response to the president's Twitter threat. But that's not enough for some. Newsweek magazine tweeted the cover of their latest issue calling the president lazy. The cover shows the president in a lazy boy eating junk food, and the tweet from Newsweek says, "Does Trump still want to be president? America's boy king doesn't like to work hard." Wow. Well, I wonder what the president has to do to impress Newsweek. Can you imagine? Here with me now with his prospective retired Missouri State Senator and the director of California's largest independent contracting group, John Loudon. Good to have you with us. John, the lazy boy thing. I mean, you almost have to laugh, because here's Newsweek with the media having an overall 10% approval rating at this moment as we speak, lowest of all time, lower than Congress, far lower than President Trump ever has been, ever will be, or ever even could be if he tried, right? 10% approval rating, this media. Newsweek dying on the vine, a dried out, thrown away, cast aside. Who's even heard of Newsweek since 1974? And this is such a flagrant, obvious, desperate attempt for relevance. And yet, it's like they don't understand that if they would just tell the real story, they would suddenly be relevant. But they're not big enough for that. Why?
No, it's almost like they're competing for the bottom. Who can get to 8% approval rating? They used to make fun of, like they call the Howard Sterns, the shock jocks that are cheap and tawdry and somehow, discrediting the journalism industry. But journalists are becoming the shockers, the jokes. What they're trying to do, the headlines they come up with are just so silly that they just get more irrelevant every day, and but they keep doing it. So goodbye.
Yeah, the unemployment has dropped again, now getting to the lowest in 16 years. It's like the President Trump train is riding the Titanic of Obama, right, John? So what does this mean in real terms, real jobs? Because, again, President Obama did some bragging about his jobs numbers, but the majority of his jobs, John, you knew this. I called them fake jobs before there even was a fake news, so I'll just go ahead and take credit for coining that fake hashtag. But I'm telling you, the jobs that this president is creating are very, very different from the ones that Obama created. And as someone in the industry of construction, where you know how these things really work in real terms for real families, right? Tell us why this matters so much.
Well, it totally matters. And, and in some ways, Obama actually made it easier for Trump. I mean, Obama would brag about shutting down a coal mine, and all Trump had to do was remove the regulation, and it opened. Boom, real jobs, great paying jobs. Same thing with the pipeline. And these are awesome jobs. These aren't the part-time, I have to live in my mother's basement, but I can flip burgers and barely skate by on minimum wage or part-time minimum wage under the Obama administration. These are, in fact, manufacturing jobs, construction jobs, and the Trump is just unleashing the economy that was pent up and waiting to be unreleased. And I will tell unleashed. I can introduce you to 10 electrical contractors today. One of them said they would hire 100 electricians in California, where they're running things off. One electrical contractor would take 100 new electricians today. We are crying for workers that can fill these good jobs. There are actually, under Trump, more high-paying jobs than we have people to fill them in some cases.
And you brought up the minimum wage, and I think that's important, because I think for the guy who just goes to work every day, wants to provide for his family, and maybe he's working 2 or 3 jobs, just trying to hold it together to figure out what his part of the American dream is, John, a minimum wage increase sounds good, just like communism or socialism sound good on their face. But you've pointed out in your work that regulations can establish the same thing, only even better. Explain why.
Well, just removing the regulations that make no sense. The left loves to create new regulations as a way to, well, for one thing, they do it for money. I mean, people need to understand every new regulation empowers a bureaucrat, and you don't get to work. You don't get to do the work if you don't follow the regulators' rule and hire their friends. So the left creates an industry of regulators. By firing those regulators and releasing the economy, the real jobs just happen. The investment makes sense.
And there can even be an effective minimum wage increase, right, from removing some of these regulations like they've done in other places.
Oh, well, and the immigration, we talked about that. Australia, that has like no immigration at all, there are more jobs than there are people because you don't have a flood of the next generation of next wave of other blue-collar, low-skilled workers competing with the jobs for the people that are already here. So stopping immigration is creating job opportunities for Americans, especially the neediest, struggling blue-collar workers in our urban cores.
And you don't mean stopping immigration. You're talking about the president's new RAISE program, which is going to limit unskilled immigrants. It's going to be recruiting instead the best and the brightest to come to America, just like it used to be, right, John?
Well, absolutely. And both stopping the illegal immigration, but also reducing the legal immigration of people that are low-skilled.
Right.
I'll tell you, you always hear this, and I'm so sick of hearing, well, Americans won't work these jobs. Our teenagers won't work these jobs. Well, you know what happens? If you quit making them compete for the lower wage of the illegal immigrant and have to pay them a higher wage, they will do the job.
And, we're seeing this new investment by Toyota, $1.6 billion. That happened just today. John, that happened with a tweet. The president went off on Toyota for shipping our jobs overseas, and in response to a tweet by this president. I mean, they say, Gina, now that you're on Trump's media advisory board, I hope you're going to tell him not to tweet anymore. And I'm thinking, what, you don't like $1.6 billion covered with a tweet like that? What is it, some 4,000 jobs? John, this unconventional way of this president seems to be working pretty well for this country.
Well, absolutely. What people have to understand is there are all kinds of variables that go into decisions about where you're going to invest. An investment in the United States, you're going to pay more for the construction, you're going to pay more for the land than you are in Mexico, but you're going to reduce costs on the transportation up over the border. So the supply chain distribution costs go up, but the construction here is up. So which way do you want to go with it? And so Trump, while they're sitting there maybe teetering under a variety of factors, and Trump says, you know what, you need to build it here, they're now worrying that the Mexico supply chain side is an unknown. It could get worse. So they might as well make the investment here. And it's just brilliant. Trump knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly how business works. And the last guy had no clue how business works. And it's just amazing to watch him every day.
It really is. And he removed the regulations that helped it all happen, too. It's amazing to see America coming back.